This is chapter 17, verse 32, and its English translation is, "Go not near fornication, because it is obscenity, and evil is the way." There are two types of sins, errors, mistakes described in the Holy Quran. And for many, there is no punishment. For example, it is a sin to worship idols. And God is very strict on this. And if you read the Holy Quran, there is verse after verse after verse that abhors this practice, and it says that humans, when they do this, they degrade themselves, and God created humanity to rise above such superstition, even to the extent that some people say God will forgive everything except for shirk, except for idol worship, except for associating or raising others to the same dignity and status as Godhood. But yet, in this world, a Muslim government, a Muslim community, human beings are not given the right to punish anyone who worships idols or who commits shirk. Shirk we see amongst Muslims as well. Those who go and pray and bow and perform sajdas at the mausoleums and burial places of great saints of the days gone by are just as guilty of shirk as anyone else. But the point I'm making is, in the Holy Quran, there is no punishment for it. Let us take the example of usury, taking usurious rates of interest. Again, usury is described in the Holy Quran in such, or condemned in the Holy Quran in such strong terms that it said that it is akin to war against Allah and His Prophet. And yet, there is no criminal sanction that is applied to usury. When there is a punishment for something, it is given because it is going to lead to public indecency and public immorality, or one person has caused severe physical harm to another. Now, I started with this preamble to make a point, and that is, sometimes it is said that in the Holy Quran there is a certain punishment of fornication or adultery, or however you want to define it. My personal view is, and a lot of people disagree with it, that the punishment that is described is not for fornication itself or adultery itself. But we'll come to that in a minute. I just want to make this point, that there are severe sins which are described in the Holy Quran without mentioning any punishment for them. If we go to chapter 24, verse 2, the Holy Quran then says, الزانية والزاني فاجلدوا كل واحد منهما مئة جلدة ولا تأخذكم بهما رأفة في دين الله إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر وليشهد عذابهما طائفة من المؤمنين. The adulterer and the adulteress and the adulterer, flog each of them with 100 stripes, and let not pity for them detain you from obedience to Allah if you believe in Allah and the last day, and let a party of believers witness their chastisement. Now, you will say that here the Holy Quran clearly mentions a punishment for disobeying the earlier injunction of the Holy Quran that I recited to you. But you see, if we look at other verses of the Holy Quran, let us carry on in the same chapter and see other verses of the Holy Quran. What do they say? Because a punishment depends upon gathering of evidence. And gathering of evidence in some cases is snooping. So what does the Holy Quran say? In the same verse in chapter 27, O you who believe, enter not houses other than your own until you have asked permission and salutated their inmates. This is better for you. But if you find no one therein, enter them not until permission is given. Or if it is said to you, go back, then go back. This is purer for you. The point I'm making is this. In another verse of the Holy Quran, it says that don't go around the back to enter people's houses. Go to the front and enter people's houses through the front door. Why? Because the thing that the Holy Quran gives great prominence to is privacy and dignity. So you're not allowed to jump someone's back wall and go and start looking through the windows. People do this. You go to someone's house, you knock on the door, there's no reply, so what do? You go around the back, you leap over the wall, and you start peering through the windows to see if someone is in. This is strictly forbidden. And God clearly says, now, this is the point I'm making. There are two ways in which you can find evidence of some misdeed or misdoing. And one is by invading someone's privacy, which is totally forbidden by God. Just like usury, if you commit that sin, then it is God who in the final analysis will decide what will happen to you. Just like shirk, if you commit that, then in the final analysis it's for God to decide. In the same way, if you're committing any sin and it is not public, then God will decide what will happen. You see, the Holy Quran asks, this is the story of Hazrat Aisha when he's left behind and there's a necklace and so on and so forth. The Holy Quran says here, verse 16, why did you not, when you heard of it, say, it beseems us not to talk of it, glory be to you. This is a great lie. Now, if you hear a rumor, if someone tells you someone is doing something wrong, the Holy Quran says, don't spread it. which is totally the opposite of what we see in this country, that someone finds out that something is happening and they immediately ring the newspapers and send them on it, and it's on television, and whatever the wrong thing or act or sin that has been committed is all over the place. And what are you doing? You're simply giving it publicity. So God says, when you heard this, why did you spread it? Why didn't you just keep quiet about it? So that's the other thing. And we have the example of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that a man went to him and said, "O Prophet of Allah, I have made this mistake." And the Holy Prophet turned his face the other way. And this hadith is in Bukhari. And then he went round the other side and tried to tell the Holy Prophet, and the Holy Prophet turned his face the other way. And it was only after this man insisted that the Holy Prophet Muhammad listened to him that he said, okay. And even then, the Holy Prophet, rather than inflict some punishment on him, specifically asked him what happened. And when the man would not stop and carried on, it was only then that he was punished. And you see, the Holy Quran also, when it talks about punishment and so on, in this particular context, says, وَالَّذِينَ يَرْمُونَ الْمُحْصَنَاتِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَأْتُوا بِأَرْبَعَةِ شُهَدَاءَ. And those who accuse free women and bring not 4 witnesses, flog them. Now, you see, this is interesting. If we compare this with the hadood ordinance in Pakistan, the Holy Quran simply says 4 witnesses. It does not say 4 men. It does not say 4 Muslim men. It just says 4 witnesses. The point I'm making is, we've taken simple injunctions and instructions of the Holy Quran and we've added on them our own interpretation, and the messages got twisted. So are you telling me, if this is the condition, if 4 Christians see something happening, then their evidence will not be acceptable? Or 1 Ahmadi, 1 Sikh, 1 Muslim, 1 Christian, what will you say? That there's only 1 witness? Where is the evidence from that from the Holy Quran? The Holy Quran simply asks for 4 witnesses. All this that we have in books of fuqaha, that a Muslim can only give evidence against a Muslim and no one else, is complete nonsense and simple twisting of historical facts. We are so proud. We mentioned the incident, I think it's about Hazrat Ali, that Hazrat Ali had purchased a shield from someone, a non-Muslim, and the non-Muslim went to court and said about Hazrat Ali radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu that he purchased a shield from me and he has not paid for it. So why didn't the judge simply say, go away, you are a Jew, you are not a Muslim, you cannot bring a case against a Muslim, or not only just a Muslim, son-in-law of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a person who was prepared to sacrifice his life for the sake of Islam and the dignity of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallam on so many occasions, not once. He was prepared to lie in bed to be martyred instead of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Didn't the Qazi know all these things? Of course he knew all these things. Did he entertain the complaint? Yes, he did. He didn't say, this is not just a Muslim, this is Ali, this is the man, the Holy Quran says, Raziullah Ta'ala, how dare you complain about him? Not only did he entertain the complaint, when Hazrat Ali said, but I paid the man, He said, bring a witness. Hazrat Ali took his own son and said, well, there you are. And the Qazi said, this is not acceptable, he is your son. He is bound to support you. Bring an independent witness. So where does this thing that we find in books of jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence, comes that only a Muslim can give evidence against a Muslim? This is patently against Islamic history and what happened in earlier times. So that's what I'm pointing out. The Holy Quran simply says, those who accuse free women and bring not 4 witnesses. These can be anyone. Obviously, if someone has been guilty of lying or whatever, their evidence will be tainted, etc. But it's just 4 witnesses and they can be anyone. But the thing to remember is this. Where and how will you find 4 witnesses if the misdemeanor being described in the words of the Holy Quran is taking place in private? How will you find 4 witnesses? Are you going to go against the verses of the Holy Quran and have telephoto lenses and go into the house opposite and peer through the window with your telephoto lenses and cameras and so on to gather evidence, which is forbidden by the Holy Quran? What the Holy Quran is saying, that it forbids public acts of indecency and exposure. What you do in private, God will punish you for that. The rest of the society is not entitled to snoop on your private life, to try and find some misdemeanor that can then be displayed on television and newspapers and so on. There is dignity to everyone's private life and it should be respected. However, if someone is going to commit an act which is going to affect the morals and the sensibilities and sensitivities of the rest of the society and do it in public without caring for them, then the Holy Quran says yes. That person needs to be punished. That's the only way you will find 4 witnesses. There is no other way that under Islamic law, in my opinion, that 4 witnesses can be found. And in fact, if evidence of whatever misdemeanor it is found by snooping, by bugging, by telephoto lenses from across the road, this would be under Islamic law inadmissible evidence and an invasion of privacy. So my submission is this, that this verse, this punishment applies not to what happens in private, and people should not, as happens sometimes. You know, in Pakistan they say so and so is a very shameless person. It's supposed to be a joke. And they said, oh, what makes you think they're shameless? And they said, well, you know, you can see into their bedroom. And the man said, oh, is that true? So he said, come along with me to the top of my house. So the friend went with this guy to the top of his house. He said, I still can't see anything. And the man said, oh, let me give you a ladder so you can climb up it and look over the wall. And the man climbed up the ladder and he still couldn't see anything. And he said, I still can't see anything. And his friend said, well, I haven't given you the binoculars yet. And this is the attitude that Islamic societies have developed. That we snoop into other people's private lives. We find the smallest thing. We're all human beings and do wrong things and so on. So we find the smallest thing by snooping and then we publicize it to denigrate people and so on. And what Islam is saying, that even if you commit the grievous sin, but the society is not impacted upon it, by it, then God is the one who will punish you. And it is not for human beings to go around and try and find people's misdemeanors and publicize them, etc., etc. This is the first part of this topic. Next week, I will end here today, but next week I will then carry on and deal in more detail with the kind of evidence that should be acceptable in an Islamic court of law, because